And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Hockey is Canada's official national winter sport and perhaps its greatest contribution to world sport. Canada is considered the birthplace of ice hockey, and Canadians generally regard the sport as their own. On today's Open Connection, we open our archives to 1989.
Hockey is the great Canadian wintertime passion, and in Kitimat it's no different. Fans in the Aluminum City are the only ones in the Northwest who have had a junior-level hockey team to cheer for. When the chance arose to view an international caliber game, the fans turned out in droves. The draw was a match between the Canadian and Finnish national teams. The Kitimat stop is the third of a six-city BC trip, part of a special tour by the Canadian national squad to promote the team.
We are Canada's national team, and so we have an obligation to play in as many parts of the country as we can. We've played in all 10 provinces this year, which has been really good. And the smaller communities, I think, don't get a chance to see the national team, and they're never going to see live NHL hockey come to their city very often. So for us to do it, it makes it more than a game, it makes it kind of an event. And I think for our players, it's a great opportunity to see a lot of different parts of the country. And we want people in the smaller communities to see the national team live. I think in the first couple of years of our program, it's very, very important we find our way to some smaller centers and let people see the type of product that plays at the Olympic Games for Canada.
The game is an important event for hockey in Kitimat. The Minor Hockey Association had to put up $20,000 to bring the teams to Kitimat. It needs to sell at least 1,800 tickets to break even. A sellout crowd would mean several $1,000s profit to the association, and the fans didn't let the organizers down. On game night, the only tickets still available were standing room only.
Oh, it's great. We got a full house, the best crowd we've had since they opened the building, which is really fantastic. They had a few hundred more when they opened the building brand new, maybe 10 years ago, but we got about 2,100 seats. We got over 200 paid standing. We got probably a couple hundred at least volunteer people in here to run this thing tonight, so we're really pleased with it. Yeah, minor hockey is going to pick up a very good return on their risk here tonight. It's really good.
The game is just an exhibition match. There's no championship on the line, and it's not an official tournament. Still, it is important to the players. Of course, there's an element of pride involved for them, but the series is also a warm-up for next month's World Championships. There's no guarantees, but a good showing in this series might earn the players a spot on the roster at the World Tournament.
This is brand new. These players are all first-year players of the program, guys that are trying to prove they should come back next year, so this is an important tour for their evaluations too. So all these games are important, and we gained some valuable experience. And I thought tonight being able to play on this rink was good for us because it's 95 feet wide and 205 feet long, so it's very much like an international rink, and I think that was really good for us to play in a large rink like this.
You take them seriously?
Sure. Hockey is a serious thing.
You want to win?
Sure. Anyway, every time.
The crowd's anxious to see the game, but they have to first sit through a few official ceremonies, such as the player introductions, national anthems, and of course the dignitary comments.
Number 26, forward Lisa Mosquito. Jeff Noble.
You will enjoy your success tomorrow. I am sure that this Finnish national team will get more.
From the very start of the game, it was obvious this series wasn't going to be a pushover for the Canadians. It's the third game in 3 nights. Each team has won 1 game. Last night, the Finns won in overtime in a game in Prince George, and tonight they've come out flying. The Finnish national team does not have a great winning history, but they're becoming stronger and did win a silver in the Calgary Olympic Games. They've played spoiler roles in many international competitions, and more Finns are finding their way into the NHL. Quality players like Edmonton Oiler Jari Kurri and Petri Skriko of the Canucks. On this team, there are at least 3 players with NHL experience, including Timo Blomqvist, formerly of the Washington Capitals.
Much bigger ice surface. This is more like back home in Europe. Much bigger ice surface. It's totally different hockey game.
Is it faster?
Well, it's faster in the NHL because everything is in a smaller area, so you have to make all the moves much quicker.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. The most significant difference between the styles of hockey is the size of the rink. The ice rink used in the North America game is smaller than the European version by about 5 yards. Let us return to the archives to discover how the Finn hockey team used those 5 yards to their advantage.
The large ice surface at the Tamatik rink is perfect for the European style of hockey practiced by the Finns. The fast-moving squad comes out flying, buzzing around the ponderous Canadian lads, making heads spin with a smart display of crisp, effective passing. At 4:17, the Finns draw first blood. Barely 40 seconds later, it was 2-0, and then before the game is even 6 minutes old, the Canadians are down 3-0. When the score becomes 4-0, it looks like a very bad night for the young Canadian team. Coach Dave King definitely doesn't like what he sees. But he does have a little more reason to smile before the end of the period, as his team salvages some pride with 2 quick goals late in the period. That makes it 4-2 for the Finns, but heading into the dressing room, the Canadian players are not happy. They've been badly outplayed, have been outshot 18-4, and are fortunate to be trailing by only 2 goals.
Everybody play a position B, stay back, weird, stay in your lane. Everybody just do your job out there. We're starting to run around a little bit, and these guys are good. Hey, we got 40 minutes left.
The coach let the players rein themselves out. He spent the break in the hallway, grimly taking notes and not saying anything more than, "The score is not good, we're not happy." The Canada-Finnish BC Tour is sponsored by 2 large private industries and Lotto BC. Still, local sponsors had to pay $20,000 to bring the teams to Kitimat.
$20,000 was a fair price. We weren't, they didn't hit us for too much. It takes about $10,000 a team to come in here. But they're looking for a profit, remember, that these teams have to be somewhat self-sustaining. And you had to bring the Finnish team. There's 33 in the Finnish party in total. Some of them are in other parts of Canada at the moment. And it takes a lot of money to bring them out of Finland and to carry them around. Apparently in their dressing room, I haven't been in there, but there's no room for players. It's just equipment.
As it turned out, the sellout crowd gave minor hockey well over $20,000 in gate receipts. Still, just in case the fan support didn't materialize, several large Kitimat businesses were offering financial support.
The industries didn't exactly put up money, but they put up something that's a lot more valuable to us, just to have that assurance that if we did run into a deficit, that deficit wasn't going to be passed on to the children of our community. It would be picked up by the industries.
As the second period resumes, the Finns head to the ice with a 2-goal lead and the comfortable knowledge that they've easily outmaneuvered the Canadians. Still, they're not making any early predictions just yet.
I think it's 1 period is away. We have to play 2 more, and then we see what happens.
You must be happy so far, though.
Well, you can't be too happy after the first period. That doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything in hockey.
It's the end of the game.
You have to wait 60 minutes, then we see.
The second period began much the same as the first. There's a sizable Finnish community that lives in Kitimat. The parent company of the Eurocant pulp mill is based in Finland. And Kitimat supporters, who bought a block of 60 tickets at center ice, didn't have to wait long before again having something to cheer about. At the 1 minute and 4 second mark on a power play, the Finns increased their lead to 3 goals.
What do you think of the game out there tonight?
It's excellent, especially when the Finnish team is winning.
But as it turned out, it was to be the last goal for the European team. The soul-searching in the locker room seemed to pay off for the Canadians. They got the best opportunities of the second period, and at the midway mark, again cut the margin to 2 goals. The fans enjoyed great end-to-end hockey in the second period. Plenty of good chances for both squads, and excellent goaltending at both ends kept the score from climbing higher. International hockey has always been known for its fast pace of action, skating and passing, but tonight would also see a fair amount of rough stuff on the ice, including some behind-the-play cheap shots by both clubs. It was rougher than many fans anticipated.
Yeah, that surprises me a bit. I thought it'd be just hard skating and clean, but they're a little bit rough, yeah.
There were no real fights during the game, just some pushing and shoving. The referee kept it under control, handing out 9 penalties altogether, including a cross-checking call against Edmonton Oilers draft pick Todd Strube, after Strube checked a fin into the boards from behind. The European was shaken up and needed a little help to leave the ice, but the injury was later described as minor. The referee took some verbal abuse from players on both teams, and when Strube got a little too vocal, he was handed a 10-minute misconduct to give him time to cool off.
3 games in 3 nights. The first 2 games were excellent. Tonight I thought both teams were a little bit perturbed with each other. They started off that way. It wasn't too bad, but it was a little chippy, and I think it's really good tomorrow's a day off because these guys need a break from each other, and the frustrations get there. But the first 2 games were excellent in terms of that. Very few penalties. Tonight, a lot of chippy ones, a lot of really foolish ones.
After 40 minutes of play, the score was 5-3 for the Finns, and although they played better in the second, the Canadians were still down by 2 goals and still not happy.
We turn it around the end of the period, though. Let's just keep it going. Guys, Volkmar ahead of everything, eh? I just didn't see the puck come. Oh, is that right? Yeah, Volkmar goals, guys. Moving it wide. You get the middle guy going in the net. It causes havoc. You fucking don't know how to defend it. Okay, guys?
While the players get ready for the last period, many of those who helped out with the game are also taking a breather in a hospitality room and analyzing the action so far.
Oh, it's a great hockey game. It's close, it's tight. I haven't seen that much. I've been running around, but we're really pleased. You can see the crowd we even have down here tonight in the hospitality room. It's fantastic. Labatt's put it on. They're doing a great job. It's really good. Good turnout.
Nothing but success tonight.
Oh, it's great. Nothing more I can say.
The hockey is tremendously skillful, and the Finnish team tonight has the edge on the Canadians. However, the Canadians are bigger and they're not quite as mobile. The Finnish team is just fabulous to watch, the way they handle the puck and carry it and pass it and do all those sort of positive things of the game of hockey.
I think this caliber of hockey is important. It's very important for kids in our communities in BC and other provinces to see this kind of hockey played. No fighting. There's a little bit of stick work out there, but it's controlled. The skating is impeccable. There's been some bad plays, some turnovers, but really that happens in any game.
The third period would belong to the Canadians. The Finns seem to be tiring. Their skating has slowed, and the bigger Canadian team is grinding the Finns down with its physical play. After several near goals, the Canadians come within 1, making the score 5-4.
I think the Finnish team is a much more polished skating and passing team. The first 2 periods, that's exactly what they've done. Third period, the Canadian teams come out hitting, and they're getting the opportunities.
Persistent pressure by Canada's national squad finally pays off, and with less than 2 minutes left in the game, team captain Mike Moeller ties it up at 5 goals each. In the sudden death overtime period, the Canadians picked up where they left off in the third. They almost got the winning goal several times before Calgary Flames first-round draft pick Brian Deasley put the win away at the 2-minute, 47-second mark.
Well, I was coming on the ice, a late change, and I came in, got to the blue line. I saw our defenseman was in. He had pinched in, so I waited, and we had good possession behind the net, and I just got the puck in the slot and one-timed it right in the corner. So it was just timing. I just waited and waited until I saw that the puck was going to come to me, and I went in, and it was right there. I just touched her in the net.
We just seemed to be so poorly mentally prepared tonight. I just don't know what the problem was, but we came back and played a little better in the second and had a very good third period, so the guys deserve a lot of credit for their ability to come back.
You can't be happy if you lose a hockey game. Never.
It's been an outstanding night for minor hockey in Kitimat, yeah.
Pretty happy tonight.
Hey, I'm thrilled. I'm totally thrilled. It's been great.
Kitimat's experiment hosting an international hockey game was so successful, and impressed Dave King says the national team may be back next year.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. Occupying nearly 1/6 of the Earth's land surface before its fall and ultimate dissolution in 1991, the United Socialist Soviet Republic, or USSR, was made up of 15 republics. In 1986, Mikhail Gorbachev's Glasnost Plan called for political openness. Let us return to the archives to hear firsthand about life in Russia.
For years, the Soviet Union has been a mystery to most of us, isolated behind armed borders to keep the East in and the West out. The only Soviet citizens we ever heard from were unhappy defectors or bureaucrats we didn't trust or believe. It was all but impossible to hear an objective opinion from a common Soviet. With the arrival of Gorbachev and his policies of openness and economic reform, all that is changing. But long before Glasnost and Perestroika became household words, a group from Kitimat had broken through the Iron Curtain and set up their own communication link with the Soviet Union. And it's a result of this exchange that 15-year-old Zhenya Fetisova of the Soviet Union came to the Northwest. Several years ago, a Kitimat peace group, Kitimat Involvement in Nuclear Disarmament, or KIND, started exchanging audio tapes with people in the Soviet city of Pushina. The relationship has grown since, and last year Kitimat sent a student to Pushina. This year it was Pushina's turn, and they chose Zhenya as their goodwill ambassador to Kitimat.
I think that people, four countries, is a people. We have many differences in our political systems, but it's different of government. It's not different of people.
Kitimat teacher and KIND founder Rob Goffenay says positive changes in East-West relations have to start from the ground up.
And we made a conscious decision years ago that there was two ways that we could approach and try to do our little bit for peace, and that is, number one, protesting the advent and the existence of weapons, or to try to get closer to the people that we have singled out as our enemies in the world, the Soviet Union. And we opted consciously for the latter approach. We thought that we could further a little bit peace in the world by getting the people of our town together with a little town in the Soviet Union and just demonstrate that we can work together to understand each other and have fun getting to know each other.
The audio cassettes that Kitimat residents record are now almost 90 minutes long. KIND puts an ad in the local paper inviting anyone who is interested to comment or ask questions the Soviet group will eventually answer through the audio tape exchange.
We merely get together, we create a cassette, and we send the cassette over to Radio Moscow, and they splice and edit it into a program where our questions and concerns are matched with answers from the Soviets, or vice versa. They direct questions at us, and we often reply.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
In the early 1960s, Philips and Hovind tasked two different teams to design a tape cartridge for a thinner and narrower tape compared to what was being used in reel-to-reel tape recorders. Philips chose the Belgium's team's design of a two-spooled cartridge. In this final segment of Open Connection, we return to archives to discover how the cassette allowed the exchange of cultures.
Zhenya's chaperone, journalist Elena Vesayala, helped create the Radio Bridge program that was broadcast in Moscow and in Pushina. She says Soviets are generally more interested in cultural things than North Americans, and the program created with the tapes from Kitimat is very popular. Vesayala says although many Soviets know little about Canada, it's probably as much as we know about them.
I was impressed when I first came to a school in Pushina and asked very small children about Canada, what they knew about it. They said, Yeah, we know. It's in America, and they speak English and French there. And one girl said, well, I can't show you where Canada is. It's there on the map. So I was impressed because I didn't realize that even little kids knew about 2 languages spoken in Canada.
During their 16-day visit, the Soviets had a schedule like a politician's election travel agenda. After touring every possible site of interest in the region, 2 tired but happy guests agreed that the standard of living in Canada is definitely higher and lifestyles more relaxed than in the Soviet Union. But both Vesayala and Zhenya strongly believe great changes are in store for their country if Gorbachev's reforms are successful.
My friends like perestroika very much because I think it's it's one of the important things in our country now, because I hope that in our country because I and my friends will live in the future, and it's very important for us how Gorbachev make our future.
Vesayala says things are changing, but in a country burdened with 18 million bureaucrats, economic improvements are going to come slowly.
Our bureaucrats definitely have many privileges which they would not willing to lose. So that's why we have this resistance to Gorbachev's reforms, of course.
Vesayala says the question now isn't whether change will come, but how it will take place.
So far, we've been introduced to 2 ways of development. I would say the first one is what's going on in China, and that is more economic reform and no democracy at all. And unfortunately, we all know the results. And the second way is the Polish way of development, which is much political debate and political freedom at last. They struggled a lot. And the economic reform is going, well, close to this. I think that they are much closer to economic changes than we are. I hope that in my country we can follow the Polish way of development.
At 15, Zhenya is still too young to be overly concerned with politics, but she and other Soviet youth have faith in Glasnost and are willing to wait for change.
I think many young people want to live in our country because our parents live here, and it's our problems, and we must decide these problems in our country. I think so.
What would you like to do in the future?
I'm going to the university, and I'm going to be a teacher of literature.
Teacher of what?
Teacher of literature, of Russian literature.
After 16 busy days in the Northwest, Zhenya Fedosova and Elena Vesayala may be happy to go home just to get some sleep. But before they left, Vesayala said if we want peace and nuclear disarmament, it's human contact that will bring it about. The time for words and political rhetoric is over.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man, if not from here to there, but the connection from his mind to his heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.